Good evening, everyone. Welcome to INTOUCH, a masterclass on school products powered by Brainwonders in partnership with Val-Ed Initiatives. This fourth edition of Masterclass series will take you on a short journey of introducing you to 30 innovative school products selected from across India. In this masterclass, innovative products, informative content, and progressive ideas are being shared with you. We remain hopeful that this and forthcoming sessions will inspire you to take your school community to a new direction of development. My name is Namrata and I will be your moderator for today. I represent India's largest counseling organization, Brainwonders. With 108 global centers and 12,000 connected schools, Brainwonders has been revolutionizing the face of academic guidance, career development, and personal growth via its USB-knitted DMIT and online psychometric tests. Founded by Mr. Manish Naidu, over the past decade, Brainwonders has been nationally awarded on 7 different platforms, including recognition for being the most trusted and digitally innovative career counseling company. Excellence and passion is what Brainwonders strives for. And with that, let's begin today's session. Before I welcome today's speaker, I ask our audience to immerse themselves in the session and hold their questions, which will be addressed right after the session. I present to you today's speaker, Mayank Solanki, who is the founder of Val-Ed Initiatives. Mayank Solanki is an energetic youth prodigy and founder of Val-Ed Initiatives in India, which proves 21st century values, life skills, and character education to children, parents, and adults across the globe. A two-time TEDx speaker, he is a creator of the world's first Values Lab, a dedicated physical space in school to build stronger character in students and inspire value-based living. He's devoted to bringing character education to the forefront conversation in the field of education and has been a part of several initiatives across the globe that work on furthering the cause of values based education, social emotional learning, and experiential learning. Val-Ed Initiatives designed and built Saksham, the world's first value lab, and was popularly known as temples of self-reflection in schools where 21st century values, life skills, and character education is taught to children, parents, and adults through innovative, theme-based, inspiring architecture that inspire children towards value-based living. Val-Ed also designs and delivers both short and long customized curriculum integrated programs that build stronger and healthier character in children in schools across India. Today's session topic is, what does the world's first values lab look like? Over to you, Mr. Solanki.
Thank you so much, Namrata, and the entire FSL team for organizing this, including all the unseen faces who've been instrumental in organizing these continuous series of everyday learning spaces. So a lot of gratitude to you for that. I will keep my presentation short and to the point, and I'm not going to share just about the kind of work which we do in building something which is unique, called these values labs, but I'll also share about a lot of these elements which we use, the thought process behind it, how we work with children, teachers, and parents, and probably most important is the way that you can reach out to us and how you can create this entire space. So with that, I'm going to begin sharing my screen, so that gives you an idea of how exactly we can go about this process. So probably you should be able to see a screen right now. This is something which is like a guiding philosophy for our entire organization. And I'm sure you would have probably run this thought by somewhere in your life, that if children can do advanced math, speak 3 languages, or even receive top grades, but if they cannot manage their emotions, if they cannot practice conflict resolution, none of those stuff at the beginning will make too much of a difference. And all of us as educators understand the importance of it. So I'm going to begin by practicing what I spoke over here. I'm going to begin with gratitude. After such a crazy year, all of us have had, probably that's the best word I can use for 2020. All of us have gone through different types of difficulties and adaptations, but also it's a great moment for gratitude. The fact that you and I have made it through in itself is a huge achievement. We've kind of seen the importance of having friends, family, beautiful support system. So the feeling of gratitude is joy. And here's a beautiful research which was done. It's almost one of the biggest research on human happiness is conducted by Harvard, and it kind of always focused on one thing, that where does happiness come from? A lot of people say that grateful people have happiness as their source. But this research definitely kind of brought out the fact that it was actually grateful people who were happy rather than happy people who are grateful. And that's the reason why for us keeping this in mind is so important. And I'm going to probably share a small story to bring this out to you. This photo is probably a week old. This is my father. He's a very famous eye surgeon in Bangalore, where I'm based out of. And that's him getting the covaxin shot. And he's himself been through such a difficult journey in this last 1 year. Contracted the virus in the line of duty. My brother, also a doctor, also contracted the same thing. But then finally today, as the government said that the first vaccines would go to the ones who were in the front line, the frontline warriors, and they got that. And it's such an amazing thing for us family, knowing that okay, now there's some sort of a shield to kind of take care of them. But my father and me always have a discussion. He says that I'm in the field where I give sight to people, and you're in a field where you give vision to people. Both are extremely important in life. And for me, that's something which I always believed about. If our healthcare workers are frontline warriors, our educationists, our educators are everyday warriors. In Chennai, there's a school whom we work with, whose principal's desk has a very beautiful thought, and she always it's written over there: the future of a nation is not built in playgrounds, in industries, or in courtyards. It's built inside the classroom. And by that logic, every single educator is the first and the foremost nation builder. And that's something for you to seek in and kind of sink inside of you. And if that is the case, then we must show our gratitude to them. And my first give of the day, I believe in helping our children and ourselves being go givers rather than the traditional go getters. My first give of the day is about a beautiful session which we do in this entire lockdown. It's been a lot of free time for us, knowing that schools are closed, but we didn't while it away doing nothing. We actually did this beautiful program called Dant, Disha and Dasha for over 2,000 teachers across the country, with the simple objective of appreciating, recognizing, and celebrating their presence, their actions, and their efforts. I always say to my teachers that teaching is such a profession, जिसके लिए ना तो ताली बजी ना तो थाली बजी. But you've been such a beautiful example of that entire thing. And these are some of the schools where we've kind of worked, and there are many, many more beyond this. And the simple objective, as I mentioned, was to appreciate them. If you would like to organize a session of Dant, Disha, and Dasha for your teachers, completely free of cost, you can always drop a message in the chat box, and we'll kind of put you down in our list, and we'll send you an email. And even if you kind of listen to this later, you can always write directly to us, and we'll be happy to organize this. Now, when I did this entire sessions, the reason why I'm saying also this is I got an opportunity to speak to different principals across the country. And I always tend to ask them this question that, what does 2021 have in store for us? What's possibly going to look like? And I'm going to share with you a very on-ground perspective of education is across the country. So this is what principals told me about 21. So one of the first things they said about mental health. They say that children will carry two kinds of bags to schools in 21. One would be a school bag and one would be a bag of emotions. And all of you educators out there would be nodding your head, knowing that children are going to bring so many emotional baggages to the school, and they're going to be excited and scared at the same time. And that aspect of mental health needs to be taken care of. And this is what research says. So if this is an opinion of an educator, this is the research behind it. The UN says that 7 in 10 children have seen the pandemic affecting their health and their mental health negatively. It's a very important point. Elsevier, which is one of the world's most it has almost 250,000 scientists who refer to these reports generated by this organization. They have themselves said that they've seen high rates of anxiety and depression and post-traumatic symptoms in children because of the pandemic. So mental health is going to be one big focus area of 21. The second thing they told me was about social emotional skills, which means that now that children, and all of us have seen that children got up when they wanted to, slept when they wanted to, coming up to a class without taking a bath, having so many breaks between classes. So all those things have come. They said that emotional well-being and resilience will need to come before everything, because 21 is going to be difficult. They're going to have to do a lot of catching up. And if you have to fill in so many learning gaps, you can't do it with hollow hearts. I love that last line, which the teacher told me. And we'll have to rethink and reimagine how to teach a child to work in a team, because earlier it used to be sitting across in the same table. Maybe today there's going to be a physical distance, there's going to be a virtual distance. Keeping all of this in mind, teaching our children social emotional skills, it is the time for it has come, whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not, it is here. And that's what research says as well. A joint paper done, it's one of the biggest studies done by UNESCO, UNICEF, WHO, and WPF, all put together have clearly stated the importance of working on well-being and investing towards that to safeguard our education and their outcomes. And the third one, probably my most favorite, is the behavior. A lot of educators think that जब आएंगे इतना discipline issues होगा, इतने challenges होंगे, and it's absolutely true, right? The principals have told me, expect attention deficiency, expect AD and ADHD, expect frowning upon routines, poor time management, and but the most important thing is they said don't expect it just from children. Expect even teachers are going to have that fatigue and that lack. Now, a lot of us are very adaptable beings. It's probably we're going to come back into line very soon. But if we do not give the support, you will see an amazing increasing gap between top performers and low performers. Like we see in our country and many places in the world, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That gap would probably happen again if we do not give the right kind of support in terms of behavioral challenges, social, emotional being and status, and even that mental health. And again, the research says the same thing, that ADHD among children, post-traumatic, is significantly going to be higher, and they already are, compared to pre-COVID levels. Now, all of this is basically what happened is going to happen in 21. When I kind of did some research to understand what happened in 2020, very interestingly, this is something which came across, and I'm going to probably ask you to think of a number. The average usage of smartphones by Indians is estimated to have gone up by 25% to almost dash hours a day. Now, think of one number in your mind, right? It could be 4, it could be 5, 7, 10, whatever. But the answer is now, today, on an average, an Indian uses his or her smartphone for 7 hours a day. Imagine the amount of content being consumed through the eyes. It's unbelievable. Let's take one step below. I told you about Indians. Now, the amount of time which is being spent on social media specifically is 55%, and 45% increase in the amount of time in gaming. That's a huge number. Here's the second thing. The screen time for children in the age group of 5 to 15 years. Okay, this is now more to the age group of our children whom we work with. That has shot up by 100%. They're looking at it twice. We already knew the children were watching a lot of TV. Now it has gone up 100%, twice that amount, just in a matter of 6 to 7 months. That's a lot of effect on a very small mind. Now let's take one more step. What exactly are they watching? Right. So the number of parents who kind of have reported changes in their children's emotions and behaviors during this quarantine, that's 85%. 85% have seen changes in their mental state, in their behavioral, in having difficulty concentrating. All of this is going to be inherited by every educator, and that's something to think about. And lastly, 80% of children have reported increase in negative feelings, right? 33% of them have reported witnessing violence in their homes, which means that one in every third child would have witnessed some sort of violence in their home. When they come back to a school, can you imagine the kind of mindset that they're going to come with? Are we trained to handle that? Do we have the competency? Do we have the number of people required for it? Do we have a process and system in place? All of us are working with it. But what if you had help with it? The reason why I kind of shared all of this data to you, because it builds the perfect platform for my second give of the day. Again, I remember I told you it's more than ask. I'm about giving today. My second gift to you is based on the foundation that it is always data driven decisions which helps us take calculated, well thought of, and those decisions which will help the most number of people. What if I provided you an opportunity, Val-Ed provided you an opportunity to understand the mental state, the social emotional status of your children? What if we asked them those questions which helped us understand what they went through in 2021 and what they're expecting in 2021? What if I gave you a chance to validate what your assumptions are and plan your strategy or refocus your strategy accordingly? And what if I told you that not only will I do it free of cost, but I'll also interpret and analyze this data for you and give you that as a report so that you can even convince your managements, your parents, your teachers to work together to help your children? All of this done anonymously, all of this done online, no data collection of any sort. So gives the opportunity to a child to be as open to this as possible. This is probably going to be done by thousands of children in the country. You'll also probably get a cross analysis of where your students stand compared to others, and not in a competing way, but simply in a way of understanding geographically where are we seeing patterns, in which age group we see what patterns. All of this information and data helping you for your school. So if you want this survey to be conducted for your school by us through a platform, we'll send the link across to you. They can fill it out, we'll analyze, we'll give it across to you. Again, put it down in the chat box and just let us know that I'm interested in this, and we will probably write a mail to you on the same thing. Now, moving to the next part, the more specific to the topic, we also wondered that now what exactly will the schools look like when they open? Everyone has this in their mind, right? That when are we going to tell our children welcome back to school? So I'm going to tell you about the first learning now, right? Which is the social emotional learning and values infrastructure. This values lab is part of that. So when this board comes out over here, now a lot of us know it's going to look like this. There's going to be physical distancing, physical safety, sanitization chambers, masks, all those things. But can you imagine the mental state? It's going to be filled with fear and anxiety and stress and nervousness, and all these emotions. How do we take care of the mental? Which device do we have which will take care of their mental stress, their mental safety and security? I have a solution. What if this year, when children came to your school, they not only saw these things, but they got a chance to walk through a tunnel of love, a social emotional learning based structure, right? Where they had spaces where they could pick up letters of any emotion, depending on any emotion that they're feeling. So for example, if they're feeling very scared, there's a letter to address scare and fear. There's a letter to address doubt. There's a letter to address academic stress. There's a letter to address lack of friendship. All of those things, beautiful thoughts, quotes, and poems, beautiful, small words of advice which children can just simply pick up. Sometimes children don't have the courage to ask, but we need to have the love to give. What if they had a place where they could even give strength to each other? Can you imagine that kind of space? What if they came in and they had a hopscotch kind of thing on positive affirming statements? What if they had a place where it encouraged them to be as kind as possible? Imagine that they have appreciation stations where they would appreciate each other, the people who, because of whom the schools have begun again. What if we built that environment and that's the first thing they went through? What if they had a values wheel which they gave it a swirl, and wherever it stopped it, that's the one good deed of the day that they would do, right? What if they had a wall of role models, both celebrities and non-celebrities? What if they had a mirror? All these possibilities to make a child feel happy while they enter and happy while they leave. This is the age and the time, the golden space we have where we can build all these structures. And it's not even that they are difficult spaces to work in, very simple ones. So a lot of this is possible to be done at a very small cost, and we'd be more than happy to help you out with that. But I'm going to take it one notch now, right? If this is what your entrance arches could look like, what if we had COVID story spaces? I'll give you a small example around this. A couple of years back, I was in Japan, specifically in the city of Hiroshima, the place where the atomic bomb had been dropped. And over there they have Hiroshima cafes where there are survivors who are called the hibakushas, who tell the stories of either their lives or their father's lives or their mother's life, who went through and who actually lived through the entire bombing. Very powerful stories, not to keep the pain fresh, but to keep the learnings fresh, keep the wisdom fresh. What if we created a story space where you allow children to speak out and share what they went through? A beautiful place where the wisdom and the pain of children can be tucked away over there, where they can become free. Imagine this kind of a story space over there. It's huge. It's in the form of a huge book. It kind of opens like pages. There's some story space. There's a beautiful space for children to write. Imagine one of your school spaces being turned away, and it's just simply like 6 feet space is all you need for this. What if you had places where you could have children speaking their heart out? What if they could write letters which showed the size of their problem? Say, for example, 5 is I'm very scared, I'm crying every day, I need help. What if someone said that I'm nervous and frustrated, but I still need any help? So they could rate the amount of seriousness of their issues, and they could put it in those boxes. And if you gave them an outlet to speak their heart out, you could probably help them as well. What if they had boxes where children could kind of write notes to teachers, right? Sometimes they find it difficult to kind of open up and speak, but what if they had these beautiful boxes where each box has a teacher's name, where they could write beautiful notes for them? What if they had gratitude stations where gratitude becomes a practice to kind of follow the entire thing? Imagine having such a school. Every principal has a dream that I want these values to be brought out, I want these life skills to be brought out, these ethics to be brought out. And I'm saying the only thing we will do is we will make an infrastructure for achieving that dream of yours. So it's the principal's dream, the school's dream, and it is our ideation and creative which brings it to life. And these are just small examples. We've done so many more. We have 30, 40 different options of different ideas like this. Like, for example, this is a meditation corner where we want to make a child understand the beauty of peace and silence, not by telling about it, but making them do this, right? There are many schools where detention and punishment is not in the form of a rap on their knuckles, but in the form of silence, sitting by themselves, making them reflect about their actions. It does wonders. For example, over here, we've used the chakra concept to help them understand how they can focus their energies around it. What if their washrooms look like this? What if your own school's washroom look like this? Whenever a child feels very sad and bad, this is the place where they go. And if they had the opportunity, and very empowering statements, which when they saw the mirror and kind of told them, I really like this one, mirror, mirror on the wall, there's a leader in us all. So many different options, possibilities with proper theme. We can either design this for you and you can execute it, or we can design and execute the entire thing for you. Both options are extremely inexpensive, beautiful possibilities to be done, and we have a lot of time before schools physically open. Very, very possible and easy to do. So I'm probably now going to give you a sneak peek into what happens when you put all of these elements together. In some schools, there are 6 schools in this country where there are dedicated places for values to be taught, and it's a very powerful way that it's been, and it's being referred to as temples of self-reflection. No gods, murtis, or statues or goddesses, or anyone. It's the child itself who's the god inside. It's the learning potential of the child. It's the beautiful things that we believe in and we want children to understand, which is reflected inside, where they can reflect, think, realize, understand, practice. And we put all of these elements together and we build beautiful spaces like this. For example, the theme over here is the honeybee. So everything looks like that, but you can see those speak your heart spaces, that sunlight you see over there is actually one of the boards where we kind of write. You can see there's furniture free spaces. Children sit on the ground. You can see over here that there's a up down area which is called mountain seating. There's a place where they can be videos and projectors being seen. These pipes are basically something called whispering pipes where we give feedback to them. Imagine having a nature-based theme lab like this as well. So depending on each and every school, we make different spaces. This is, for example, a Kamal board, right? Where we've done, you can see the theme on top is global. So this is our global values lab, which we made in one of our schools in Bangalore. The previous one we made one of our schools in Chennai. We made one in Bangalore. We've made one in Noida. So across the country. Now, knowing that what those beautiful spaces, and if you want to know more about the lab, again, please drop in a message on the chat box, or probably write us an email and we'll connect back with you. What we do inside this lab, what we do inside the school, with or without the lab, is probably more important. We run a program called Saksham. And this Saksham program is extremely beautiful in the sense that it's a single curriculum program, which means that whether you want to teach your children values, life skills, social emotional learning, ethics, all of it is achieved through a single curriculum and a single program. So that's one of the most beautiful thing about it. Second is, you could do this for children, you could do this for your teachers, you could do it for your parents, any stakeholder, right? It can be delivered by the school's educators, or it could be delivered by Val-Ed educators who are trained by us. You could deliver this online, or you could deliver this offline and online together as a hybrid model. You could do this on a weekday, or you could do on a weekend. You could do it during the school, you can do it during off. Any amount of customization is possible. You could do this once in a week, once in 15 days, or once in a month. And I'll tell you why this entire program has made such a huge difference in the lives of over 15,000 children every week since 2019. And one of the ways when we said that we have a single curriculum around it is that we teach them through a values pyramid model. What that essentially means is we teach them all those things which help them become good individuals. It helps them become better sons and daughters, better members of the society, better citizens of the country, and even better human beings. The 5 facets we want our children to improve in. So our curriculum covers all those values and skills which are required for that. And it's not just that. We work towards three objectives. How do we have in children goodness, successfulness, and how to live a flourishing life, which is also called as achai, sachai, and uchai. The three things which we want all our children to achieve. With this objective, we design a beautiful curriculum which is customized for each and every grade, for each and every school. No two school have the same curriculum. No two grades have the same curriculum. So you choose, Mayank, I want this value to be taught at this grade in this way, and we will design the entire thing from our full-time content team who makes this for different schools, right from pre-primary till high school. We have worked with each and every age group, and we've made models for each and every one of them. And what exactly is the approach behind making this curriculum? We use a blended science of character, which means evidence-based Western sciences like KSIL, like Human Values Foundation, like character.org. We use a lot of these research-based sciences to develop our curriculum, but at the same time, we also believe in Indian sciences, sciences like Panchatantra, Jataka, and Hitopadesha, which becomes a beautiful ways of bringing the best of two worlds together. And this is why there's a huge difference in what we are teaching. Secondly, the way we've gone about it, we teach through experiential learning. After experiential learning, the second step we follow is building a reflection in them by asking them questions. The third thing is to make them realize, which means that now that it starts crystallizing into a message. And the fourth one is to inspire them to take action and inculcate and implement those learnings. So it's not a lot of talk alone. It is talk followed by action. Walking the talk is what we believe in. This entire model is called as the ERRT model, developed by Val-Ed Initiatives, and it's been in execution since the last 4 years in different schools across the country. So more on that, I'll be happy to share with you. And the other end of it, for me, you can have the greatest curriculum, you can have the greatest lab, but what really comes down to is the person. And all of us have noticed it. All of us know how much online education can last now, how much the importance of offline is, why the physical presence of a teacher is so important. We believe the same thing. Our programs are delivered by trained role model educators from a variety of professions. So no longer the same teacher whom they see in the school every single day. What if they had educators who came from different spaces, who didn't have the teacher feel, who were real life practitioners and people with real jobs in different professions? And imagine what that would be. You could have a mix of regular educators and these star educators on a monthly basis. All those possibles are possible. Now, these are some examples of people from different places, from consulting, from people who work in the government, from people who are entrepreneurs, from people who are outside the country, doctors. All of these people are the educators, and the reason why there's a difference in the way our program is delivered, and children love our programs. And it's not just this. The difference also, as I mentioned, is that we work with children, parents, and teachers. Some of the examples of the kind of events which we do is that once in every 3 months, we invite the parents together so that they also can grow in the journey of living a life of values and skills. This is an example where we took children to the government to understand that don't have armchair criticism and say that this is not right in our country, that is not right in our country, but to kind of build up from there. So we built a platinum club. We went and met the Minister of Tourism and IT in Karnataka at the Vedant Sauda, and we had a great experience of children truly learning the importance of living by values. And Gandhiji's photo is probably the best imagery which could have depicted this entire thing. Now, for example, we did events like blindfolded conversation with different parents. The difference is over here they're blindfolded, but they're not talking to their children, they're talking to their children's friends. Sometimes when you don't know who they are, it reveals so much about them. You reveal so much about yourself. You understand each other. You build empathy. It's one of the most beautiful events which we have done, and there is zero cost involved in this. It's just the presence and physical space. We've done events called Charan Spurs, which is cultural inculcation of different values of children through touching their feet, understanding the role parents play in our lives. I always believe that आप बच्चों को बहुत लायक बनाएं, आप बच्चों को बहुत अच्छा सिखाएं, पढ़ाएं, बट याद रखिएगा, कल अगर बिना वैल्यूज के, बिना जीवन के नैतिक मूल्य और संस्कारों के बिना अगर हम लोग ने बच्चों को बड़ा किया, तो यही लायक बच्चे आपको कल नालायक समझेंगे. If they do not see that competence and character are two different things, they will measure every single thing with a price tag. And that's the reason why I truly believe that no one from outside is going to come and teach our culture to our children. We will have to do it. And there is nothing religious or political about any part of our program, or any program for that matter. And that's the reason why we focus on the human aspect of it. And this is, again, just one small example. We have tens and twenties of such events which we organize and give options to different schools who can work on this. If in my entire presentation you like only one part of it, you can just take that. You like only curriculum, you can only take curriculum. You like only events, you can take only events. You like only the lab, you can take only lab. You like only one element, you can take one element. We provide you the option to start your journey, and I invite you to do that. And final part of my presentation is the impact of all the ideas which we have when we executed. What exactly happened? I'm happy to share 87% of the students have accepted themselves openly. Self-acceptance is such an important thing. It's the foundation of any kind of growth. 86% have said that their levels of integrity have increased. We've had students coming and returning things they took a year back, because now they don't just like the truth, they love the truth and they want to be the truth. And that's a huge achievement to come. That's the journey from liking something to living something. We've had more courage in our children. 80% feeling being more courageous, because again, डर चला गया तो सच्चाई आने लगी, courage आने लगा, bravery आने लगी, willingness to face and will face life in its entirety, which is an example of resilience. And even there are academic effects of this entire program. We've seen scores of children going up, because now they take a responsibility for their life. They believe that, difficulties will come and go, but I can overcome them. What was earlier less marks and less performance because of fear and anxiety and stress has today now become replaced with resilience, with belief, and with the confidence that I can. And this is the simple example of it. And it's not just from the children's angle of it. One big statistic to see from this: 92% of people who have undergone our program, those parents who've paid for it, have said they're willing and they want this program to continue. Now, that's a huge difference. A paying parent saying that I want to continue paying for a program, they would never do it unless and until they've seen some sort of an impact. And again, this is just a few examples here and there of the different kind of impact we've been able to create in this entire thing. I now finally go to the other end of it. That if you believe that, how do we work with the teacher? How can you make our teacher develop and deliver all of these things? Then I have an answer to you as well. We develop three beautiful verticals in our teacher training space. One which works on readiness, which means that when children come to your school, how do we prepare your children, your teachers, to make your school ready, to make your programs ready, to make your classrooms fresh and aligned with the best skills, so that children can come back to school in the most comfortable and smooth manner. We do empowerment workshops, which helps your teachers understand how to prepare and equip children for a smooth return to not only the setup, but also build those mindsets, build those mindfulness and heartfulness in classes. And lastly, we do workshops of well-being for your teachers itself. This workshop is not so that they can teach something to the child, it is so that they themselves can now become much more positive. They can learn how to deal with their stress. They can learn how to do better time management. They can learn how to be more proactive. All of those skills and things which every management and principal wants from their teachers. We have spent so much time with teachers and children across in the last 6 to 7 years. We truly believe we can help your teachers with that. So even if you feel I just want one or two workshops with my teachers, Mayank, we are right over here. There's always help to offer. Begin with those free giveaways we've seen you, right? Begin with just a mail, just take something where there's no monetary cost involved, and let's see where that journey leads to. I'm very sure that we'll be able to do a great job for you and make a huge difference. So this is again a small way of reflecting on the different things that we do. The survey and the teacher session, which is free of cost. The values infrastructure, where we can design and build it for your school. The Saksham program, which can be done online, offline, your educator, our educator, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, role model educators, all of those options. And finally, the teacher training program, where we do different workshops for your teachers, and in a short or in a long way. So if I now open the stage. I thank you for listening to me so patiently. I open the stage for any questions from anyone over here. These are my contact details as well, where you can reach out to me. And as I told you, I'm going to now give it back to Namrata, who could probably share with me if there are any questions which the audience would like to ask me.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Dear participants, the floor is now open. You can present your questions to Mr. Solanki. I'm sure, as he said, he'll be very happy to answer them. You can use the chat box, you can use the activity section, or you can also raise your hand as the column suggests and present the questions. As you can see in the chat section, there's a lot of appreciation for the initiative. I'll say for your work, for your team's work. A lot of people have enjoyed quite thoroughly. Dear participants, the contact details of Val-Ed Initiatives have been posted in the chat box. For the convenience of everybody, I'd like to read it out here as well. Their website is valedindia.com, that is VALEDINDIA.com. The contact numbers, there are two of them. You can reach them on anyone. While first one is 97317 30636, and the second one is 98804 34200. The email ID, Mr. Solanki, can also be reached on mail. The email ID is mayank@valedindia.com. All right. So meanwhile, while sir we wait for our questions, I do have a question of my own. See, sir, like how you spoke about, that it is value education is not just that moral education that we were taught conventionally in schools, right? It is more about skills nowadays. And you spoke a lot of them about, 21st century skills and the current socio-emotional coping mechanisms, which definitely is the need of the hour. What is the feedback that you've had from parents in terms of how certain concepts or certain topics are being taught to and explained to children? Because a lot of time when we talk about values, it can be taken as a very subjective thing as well, right? So how has the parents reacted to it?
Well, so values are very synonymously used with many words. So there is ethics, there is morality, there is values, there is virtues. So while all of them might seem very similar words, but they have very different connotations to what they mean and everything they go by. I'll give you a small example. What sometimes might be ethically correct might be morally absolutely wrong. What can be legally correct might be morally extremely unfair, right? So for example, even if you take the example of the Mahabharata, right, all of us have heard the story of the Chira and of Draupadi. Now the Duryodhan and the Kauravas were legally the owners of the slaves Pandavas and the Draupadi, apparently because she was bet by the husband and everything around it, right? So they said that we are doing everything which is legal, we can do whatever we want to do. So while they were legally so-called allowed to do that, but morally it was absolutely unacceptable that this is how you treat a family member. And what that pointed out was an even bigger point, which means that how does the society actually view male roles and female roles, right? So I asked the same thing to my parents who are part of our programs or anywhere else. Think about when you talk about values, when you talk about these things that you want in your children, how many of them are you following yourself? Right? How many of these things? Because children always listen to people whom they like, and children don't listen to people whom they don't like. Right? To be likable is extremely important, but at the same time, it's important to also keep in mind that if we don't follow what we want our children to follow, it's going to be an even more difficult thing. While there are so many times that without even trying to teach, a lot of people teach other people. Virat Kohli has never tried to teach anything to me or to you, right? Simply in his being, he has taught the whole world the importance of fitness, the importance of having aggression and passion for your goal and living a life of fullness. And all of us are so many inspired. Millions of people are inspired. Now, the same example applies to MS Dhoni, to Abdul Kalam, and so on and so forth. So this is something which I always tell that parents, discussing about your values and this thing is so much an important topic, and in our country, I think, or in the world, it's always postponed from one person to the other. that okay, parents think school should teach, school thinks parents should teach. But the point is, who should teach? Right? Someone has to teach this for sure. So that's the reason why extremely important for us to be able to kind of work around it and to bring it in our everyday life, and then to kind of ask our children. And it's okay, you're not going to be perfect in everything. That does not mean that you don't teach your child, right? But accept that I'm not perfect, beta, but I believe that you can learn more from my mistakes than from my right things. That's an amazing example of humility, which a child will recognize and will say that tomorrow when I am wrong, like my father, it's okay to accept that I'm wrong. But accepting that you're wrong is seen as a weakness in our community sometimes. I hope I kind of answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. We have another question by Mr. Sachin Kumar, who's asking how important is value education?
Well, if it wasn't important, then I wouldn't have devoted my life, working on this entire field. There's no one way of answering this question, but I'll just simply say that values are the difference between a scientist who makes medicine to cure and a scientist who builds bombs to destroy. The difference is the values over there, right? There's a very famous example which says that in the education without values is extremely dangerous. It's the education which happened in the land of Europe in the early 19th century, which led millions of people allow to vote in a person like the Nazi party and to become the premier over there. And they committed so many atrocities. Now you can feel sorry for the people who went through that, or you can also recognize that there were those people who silently watched it, right? It was education without values which made skilled psychopaths, educated monsters. All of this was possible. Why? Because there was a sense of consciousness missing. Dear parents, I always say, or rather, dear teachers and parents over here, I always say that an education with values is the greatest life insurance policy you can have. ये बच्चे ही आपका ध्यान रखने वाले हैं. अगर इनके चरित्र के ऊपर इन्वेस्ट नहीं किया तो कल एज आई टोल्ड यू यही लायक बच्चे आपको नालायक समझेंगे. So it's extremely important to keep that in mind. And values is what makes all of us trust each other, dependable on each other. Know that we are going to be. Values is the difference between animal and a man or a human being. Inside the forest, might is right. Inside a society, right is right. And that right and might ka difference is only values. So I hope I've answered your question in 4 or 5 ways.
Very well, sir. We have a question by Manish Tiwari, who's asking how can the teachers raise the bar of values for their professional growth?
How can the teachers raise the bar of values for their professional growth, right?
Yes.
Right. So I think self introspection and reflection is, I think, a very important aspect of any growth, right? So any professional growth happens when you kind of reflect upon how am I doing in my job, what I could have done better, how have I progressed from where I was to where I am. So asking these hard questions is very important. Having a sounding board is very important. Having someone who's like a mentor or a guide to you and who kind of sees you over a period of time. Having a coach is very important in these things. And again, I'm not telling about professional, paid professional personnel who can only do this. Even a colleague can be a guide or a mentor to you. And age is no bar over here. Someone who has a keen eye of observation, who sees you what you are doing from the outside, not from the inside. Because जब हम करते हैं हमें लगता है हम सही कर रहे हैं. But it's basically the lens which someone else has who's able to watch you and see what you're doing, who can point out certain things to you. So that is a great way for you to be able to raise your own bar, because someone else is kind of measuring it to you. That, last time when you went through this difficulty, this is how you approach it. This time, this is how you approach it. That difference will show you how much you have grown. So it's all about maturity. As they say that we teach people only to the level of their maturity. अगर आप second standard के बच्चे को calculus सिखाओगे तो या तो जो सिखा रहा है पागल हो जाएगा या तो जो सीख रहा है पागल हो जाएगा. So it's very important to maintain that level of maturity as we keep moving ahead and keep asking yourself hard questions. I always heard that feedback is the breakfast of champions. unless and until you're willing to be wrong, unless until you're willing to ask, where did I go wrong? How can I be better? It's very difficult to kind of improve your bar of performance. A lot of Virat Kohli, I remember once said that success is a very lousy teacher. Failure is an amazing one. So, reflecting upon what I did well and what I need to continue is a very important part. But definitely look at what are the things which didn't happen the way you expected to them, writing them down, and then saying that, okay, this is how I'm going to improve it. All of these things are beautiful things which are values based behavior. These are social emotional learning skills and traits and attitudes, and they can really make you the difference between a good teacher and a great teacher. And the difference between good and great is basically, I've heard, good is the enemy of great. When you settle, then you know that you're not going to reach greatness because you've settled for good. So never settle.
Thank you, sir. A lot of great analogies over here. We have another question by Pankaj Jain who's asking, how can value education be implemented in the school subjects?
Well, it's a very pertinent question. The question is always that, should values be taught as a subject, or should values be taught in the ideology and the way they go about it? It's a very valid question and something which people have been debating for many, many years. You could even say centuries now. Because the education system is that old. My view on this entire thing is that I believe that value should be taught both as a subject and through subjects. Because when you are sitting inside a class of mathematics, the first objective is to learn math. But you want to teach math in an empathetic manner. You want to teach math जिससे वो बड़ा होके पैसा अच्छा संभाले और उस बच्चे को पैसे को अच्छे direction में डाले. That's the objective of teaching a child math. But you don't want to teach math in a way that he looks at it that, okay, this is my way of tricking someone, this is my way of making an extra profit, or this is my way of doing extra calculation, or doing it in a way that it looks like it's bigger but it's actually smaller. This is basically the danger of teaching math without values. And the same way, science can be taught, sociology can be taught, all subjects can be taught with values that way. The objective is, when you see from the outcome, an outcome based approach to any subject is what helps you understand, okay, how do I teach it with values? And I always say, tell my teachers, the simplest thing you can do on your blackboard or your green board, whichever board you work with, have one dedicated corner which simply says life lessons from every subject. When you have a dedicated space which says, okay, what's the life lesson we learned from this period today or this day today, whatever, just make a note of it, whether a child mentions it or you mention it. Because what happens is, when you have that space, or when it's right in front of your eyes every single day, you know that everything which a child is seeing, he's being trained into seeing every subject with the fact that, okay, I need to learn a life lesson also from it. And they will start thinking in those ways. Do you remember, Namrata, when we were in school, we used to have on a board thought for the day right on top?
Yes, I was thinking about the exact same thing. Thought of the day, which was read out in the morning assembly
Exactly.
and
Which
written
is
on the
someone
corner,
else's system.
and then
Which
it
is
was just
someone
there.
else's system. Now, when you have a box which knows that that wisdom is going to be filled by you, any child could contribute to it. Now, what happens is, you've given an opportunity, you've created a vacuum for a child to say that, okay, I'm going to share something which I learned about life today, from this subject, from this science, from this social, from this language. And that's when they start thinking like philosophers. That's when they start thinking in much broader ways. So these are very small ways that you can do, right? And I always believe in starting step by step, slowly by slowly but surely. And then you start seeing that, you kind of gone achieve so much in so little time. Because now the way you teach itself, values becomes the foundation of curriculum, values becomes the curriculum, not a part of it anymore.
Very well said, sir. We have another question by Pankaj Jain, which is actually a follow up the very same question. Who wants to know how effective will be a separate value education based period in schools?
Well, I'm very happy that you asked that. So now that I explained to you how each subject can be and should be taught with values, the reason why we still promote and propagate that you should have a dedicated space for this is because, while in a math class teaching values is important, but the first objective is math. Similarly, in a dedicated values class, it is very important that today let's understand empathy का मतलब क्या, आज empathy क्या है, let's see from all angles. सच्चा प्यार का मतलब क्या होता है, let's see from all angles. Because which book will teach a child what is true mother's love? It's all taught randomly through life, sometimes here, sometimes there. But here's the thing: no matter how much life teaches, unless and until the receptor over here works, none of that is going to work. If you want to go into a slightly deeper conversation, because learning comes with conversation, not from dialogues and from quotations. When you have to have a deeper conversation, it requires time. And that's the reason why in a class of 30-40 minutes, when you take up one topic, and when you do that, say for example 2 or 3 classes, like for example when we pick up a value in a school, we teach one value for 3 weeks or for 3 classes. So that is 21 days. In 21 days, not only they go through 3 classes of physical interaction, of conversation, they also go through 3 classes. Hey Namrata, am I back?
Yes, sir, you can continue now.
Yeah, sorry about that. So that's the reason why I was mentioning that we teach values in that specific way, through a subject by subject, or rather value by value, where we focus it for 3 sessions and then we move to the next one. So in one year we're able to at least cover 5 to 6 different values. They have those 21 days per value, which they not only learn through but they also implement those actions. They discuss about it. They do role plays. They see real life stories, and so much so and forth from there. So this is the reason why I mentioned having both together will give you amazing results.
We have one more question from Dr. Yogita Sarwal on very similar lines. She's saying moral science is often taught as a subject. So, what are the ways that one can deal with it?
Well, I think here's the thing. With all due respect, Dr. Yogita, I don't think that teaching it as a subject is the issue. It's the way it is being taught is the issue, right? If, like for example, now there's a new trend called masterclass. This is also, by the way, is a masterclass what we're doing right now. The quality of a painting is the responsibility of the painter. The quality of a song is the responsibility of the song consumer, composer. Similarly, the quality of the experience of a class is the responsibility of the educator. If moral science is taught in a way which is relevant, not preachy, realistic, practical, relevant, you will then start seeing that children will love it for for the way it is. When you take examples which children go through, and not Baba Azam ke zamane ke, when you take examples of freedom time pe ye hota, none of these children have seen that. How do you expect them to relate to it? You can state it out there as a matter of fact, what you enjoy today is because someone gave up their lives. That's a great point to mention, but not every other example can be about some great person in the past. What about a non-great person? What about their lives and their struggles? When you talk about the issues which he and she their friends face, what they face with their teachers, what they face with their parents, those examples start making now moral science such an important thing. Because morality exists even between कि एक दोस्त और दूसरे दोस्त का क्या moral obligation hota hai. What is your moral obligation to the person who's picking up garbage on the street outside? What happens if you don't follow that? What happens if they kind of vanished for one day? How would the city entire be? That's how you make things interesting. When you make them role play, when you tell them, okay, now assume that you're the garbage guy and you're this part. Now imagine if this is taken away from you. How do you feel? When you make them step in different shoes, you will see moral science will become easily the most interesting topic. Why? Infinite possibilities. Children love novelty. The human mind craves for 3 things: fear, pleasure, and novelty. These are the 3 things it only always gets inspired or moved by, and this is how things happen around. So I hope, Dr. Yogita, I'm able to kind of show you that light, that moral education, if taught better, um, will simply do a great work.
I agree. I think when we are talking about moral education or value sciences as a separate subject, it is like any other subject. We have had teachers who may teach a particular, let's say, a topic of physics in a way, then you are like, why am I learning about all these forces? But then there have been teachers also who have, taught it in a way that actually made me want to attend the practical classes as well. That okay, let me experiment about how these things moves or how these things weigh out.
Correct.
It is very dependent on the teacher, especially when it is coming to a student. And moral education, science, value based learning, whatever we want to call it, imagine if something has so many names and interpretation within this 30 to 40 minute session. It can definitely turn out to be a very interesting class for a student's academic year or academic growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
We we have the final question asked by Shalini Mehta, who's asking, are values being destroyed by the system?
Well, we are the system. Let's be honest about that. We have to understand system कुछ बाहर से नहीं होता, system हम ही होते हैं. ये देश कोई बाहर के लोग नहीं चला रहे, हम ही चला रहे हैं, और जो चला रहे हैं जिनको हमने ही वोट किया है. So it's as simple as that. So for me, understanding the word system is very important over here. If your objective is, or if your understanding is that system means the government, the bureaucrats, the minister, the government employees, then we have to understand that there's a much bigger stakeholder in that. That is the ones who basically gave them all of these spaces. And no system is perfect, and no system can ever be perfect, because evolution is a continuous process, everyday process. It will never stop. So there's always going to be some or the other coming around it. But now, what we do about it is extremely important. Now, there's a lot of flack which is given to our education system. I think trashing our education system is a favorite pastime of many people. कि हमारे एजुकेशन सिस्टम ये है, ऐसा है, वैसा है, रट्टा पढ़ाता है लोगों को, प्रैक्टिकल अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं मिलती है, एक्सेट्रा व्हाटएवर. बट आई आल्सो हैव अ वेरी strong follow-up question to all of them. Keeping all of that in mind, we also at the same time take pride in the fact saying that some of the world's best engineers, doctors are all Indians. एंड ऐसा नहीं कि पूरा एजुकेशन उन इंडियंस ने बाहर किया है, उनका बेस एजुकेशन इंडिया में ही हुआ है, हायर एजुकेशन बाहर हुआ है. सो यू ऑल्सो हैव टू गिव क्रेडिट दैट सम थिंग्स आर रियली गोइंग वेरी वेल, some things really need a lot of drastic improvements, which is always going to be the case. So the moment we kind of change the way our perspective of looking at it, we'll start seeing this education system as an opportunity to improve rather than a burden to deal with. Like as they say that लहर बदली तो किनारे बदले और नजर बदली तो नजारे बदले. तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि हमारी नजर बदले इसके अंदर. Then what you're seeing also will start changing. So our system needs a revamp, our system needs improvements, and NEP is a great step towards it. But now the spirit of implementation is the most important. Adaption and is very important. Being true to the spirit of it, this is in the hand of our teachers. And even at the least, if we can't do anything, asking questions and being supportive and being willing to say that, okay, I'm going to support to make the system better at my own individual capacity. That's the best thing you can do. I'll give you a small example. Like I told that in the Dart Disha session, I didn't do this because someone told me to. I simply said that whether the system appreciates teachers or not, I will do my bit. I am just one person. There are lakhs of teachers in this school, but in this country. But what I do know is one boy like me sitting in Bangalore has at least made 2,000 teachers feel that what they do makes a difference. I did my bit. Who knows, by listening to me, someone else gets inspired and do it. Maybe there are 10, 15, 100 people like me who are already doing it by themselves. But what's more important is to look into, so only worry about what is in your hand and don't worry about what is not in your hand. And I think with that attitude and spirit of collaboration and taking responsibility for fixing rather than blaming, I think then we'll start seeing that this question will start slowly going away, that क्या है system का issue है. Because then we'll always see that हर चीज का outcome and result हम ही होता है, कि cause भी हम है और enjoyer या receiver भी हम ही है. So that's a very powerful place to be in, and I hope that Pankaj can kind of see that kind of thing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. I think everybody would agree with me when I say that today was definitely one of the most interesting sessions we have had, and including the Q&A as well. Thank you for taking the time out and joining with us, on today's platform, helping us understand, like I think what we understood during your session and during the Q&A is that children are at the end children. Exemplifying those values, ensuring that it is something more natural and more visible, more observable, is our responsibility, right? So I think a lot of a lot of us would have been inspired to do that in that direction, to be more nuanced, to be more observant about what we are doing and how children are imprinting or following up on what we do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Namrit. And all of your viewers as well, both the one who are live right now and the ones who will be in the future.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, dear participants, for joining us for today's session. It was definitely very engaging for to have all of you here. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock in the evening. Till then, have a great evening.